Really excited to have Ashley here for our next expert interview. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of good content today. So let's jump right into it. Ashley, why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Hi, everybody. My name is Ashley Polan. I'm owner of Honeypot Social, which is a social media marketing agency. So we have about 13 clients. No, I wouldn't say we have a niche industry. So we manage everything from restaurants to sales coaching and just multiple different clients, basically. And we love it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for making time. I'm really excited. I've always respected what you've done in the social media and just marketing space in general. Let's talk trends. What are some things that are trending in the social media world that people should pay attention to?
Short form videos are definitely a big trend right now. So obviously that's why TikTok is taking off and Reels are taking off. That's really helping people grow their accounts, is just that short, quick information. Our attention spans are fairly short. So we want to be clear, concise, whether we're sharing a tip or a quick entertaining video. That's definitely a very popular trend across the board.
Yeah, I see more and more of that. The algorithms seem to be all over the place, but I think stories tend to be popping up. I see that on my own marketing, so that makes sense. Any tips on how to stay fresh with your stories? It can be a little daunting trying to keep them updated daily, or what's your recommendation there?
Oh, I think that's a really good question. So a big thing that like I really pride myself in, and as far as what I do for clients, is social strategy. And so really deciding like content buckets and figuring out different niches you're going to talk about within your industry. And just constantly researching, watching videos, creating content, and sparking ideas. There's really nothing you can do that goes wrong, especially stories. It's a little bit nicer because it's a little bit more casual. You can pop on and just chat or talk. It doesn't need to be as curated as maybe a short video or reel might be. That might be a little bit more intimidating at first, but like I said, I would just strategize. I would create content buckets and just as maybe create like a notes on your phone, and as ideas are coming to you and flowing, like just keep a bunch of notes and refer back to that when you're coming up with content.
That's great. I love that advice. I think that often we forget, like, if someone's already doing it, it's okay. Like, let's see what's good, right? Let's see what's working. Let's look at other brands' ideas, and then let's make that have our voice. But it's perfectly okay, right? Like, you don't have to be 100% unique.
100%. You don't have to come up with totally custom ideas or create your own TikTok trend. I mean, you can follow what other people are doing and make it yours, make it your niche, and go from there.
That's awesome. Can you talk about, you had a client video go viral recently? I think it was for your Pokey client. Can you talk about, I love the shooting of that, but maybe just like, where did that idea come from? Is there any logic to why that video took off? And then if there's any back end follow up from your client on what that exposure did for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the client that we had a video go viral for was Loco Ono, so they're Hawaiian barbecue and Pokey, and we share a mixture of reels from like the Hawaiian barbecue process and then the building of the poke bowl. And the one that went viral was just a building of a poke bowl. It wasn't anything different, and it was very interesting because I mean, I honestly couldn't find a good trend behind it. The music I didn't think was that catchy. It wasn't too significantly different from other like poke bowl building videos that we did. So I did find it really interesting. I think we just hit the right audience at the right time, and it really interested a lot of people. It definitely grew our following, which was great. So a little bit more exposure for Loco Ono, but yeah, that was a really fun process just to kind of watch those numbers rise to over 1 million. We're excited when we hit 10K, and then it was like 50, and we're like, okay, here we go. And just like the comments and things that were rolling in, I think, I mean, we're used to poke and raw fish, but that seemed to be what really captured a lot of people's interest. Like, you're eating that raw? How can you eat that raw? Which people think that's funny. I mean, sushi and poke has been a thing for a long time, so I don't know why that surprised people so much, but Yeah, I can't tell you anything specific that we did to make that video go viral. I think that's what happens a lot of times, just like the guy with the cranberry juice. Like he probably never expected that video to go viral, and it just happens.
Well, and I love that. That's part of why I asked, because one, it's awesome, right? Like I'm sure your client loved that, and I'm sure you loved it too. It's awesome to see it go. We even said, right, like we've done similar videos that didn't get that kind of traction. And I think that's the message to everybody is like, hey, even if you have one that goes to the moon, I wouldn't expect your next one to do that. And if you're posting and posting and you're not getting a ton of traction, it's okay. Just keep creating content, keep getting creative, because you never know when one of those videos is going to pop.
Exactly. Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing and don't go in with the goal to create viral videos. I think you just need to talk about your brand, talk about your niche, talk about whatever it is that makes you unique and what you do. And I think just being authentic and creating content will get you out there.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the variety of social platforms. So I know it can be overwhelming to figure out like how many platforms does my business need to be on? What platforms? How often do I post? So first, let's just start with what platforms. Should people jump on all the newest platforms? Should they stick with the tried and true ones? What's your idea and thoughts there?
Again, it's strategy and it's all about your brand because I don't believe you should be on every platform. I think then you're just spreading all this different type of content and you're not really honing in on where your audience will be. So basically, you just need to really understand and hone in on who your target audience is and what platforms they're most active on and focus on creating content there. It doesn't hurt to try other platforms and see, if you gain some traction or if there's some interest there. But I can say that then you're just spending all this time, creating this content for these platforms, and it's not really sticking. I would definitely focus on the ones that make the most sense. I mean, LinkedIn, for example, that's a very B2B platform, and so if I'm not necessarily posting poke bowl videos on LinkedIn, things like that, just obviously you want to consider for your brand.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
What about frequency of posts? Should I post as often as I can? Is once a week good? Once a month? Like what's your idea around like how much content should I as a business owner be getting out there?
I mean, content is king, and so the more content, the better it goes. But I also think if you're just throwing content out there to throw content out there, then that's never a good strategy either. You want to have some thought and some strategy behind the content you're creating. So just whatever works for you and your business. I mean, if 3 posts a week is kind of my minimum, I'd prefer, for clients, I don't recommend anything less than that. So about 3 posts a week. And it's very thoughtful, curated content. Like we really pride ourselves again in understanding our audience and providing them with value, not just throwing up another pretty picture and trying to get likes and stuff. We really want to provide value for our audience. Um, but then there's other clients that, especially if you're an online e-commerce business, you want to be way more active as far as sharing a lot of more content because you're trying to drive as many people to your website or to your product or something like that. So yeah, so then I'd recommend at least posting daily and story content daily, and try and do those reels. Reels are the biggest thing right now again on Instagram. So
That's good. That's good advice. It again, I see all those posts where it's like post this time of day and here's the exact formula and it's like
Mhm.
cool. I don't think any of those are actually true. It's like have a thought process for your business, make it make sense and make it be something that like if you're going to do it yourself is sustainable, right? Don't
Exactly.
post a ton one week and then go, radio silent for a year, right?
100%. You have to do something that's sustainable for you and then stay consistent because if you're all over the place, that's when the algorithm is messed up and you're not really on par with it. But there are better posting days and times, and that's different for every business again. And just you'll start seeing trends sometimes if you're posting at 5 p.m. versus 5 a.m. You'll notice you get more likes on that or more exposure at 5 p.m. or something. And then just starting to consider that. But again, it's different for everybody. So those best posting days and times charts you see on Google, those are inaccurate for sure.
Right? Because it's you, it's your business, it's your audience, right? It's your platform, right? There's so much to it. That's awesome. So
Exactly.
what about hiring someone to manage my social media, right? Obviously, that's what you do. But if
Mhm.
I'm a business owner and I'm going out there, maybe I don't know a ton, like how do I even ask the right questions? What should I be considering when hiring someone? I don't want to spend a bunch of money and not have a good experience or get results.
Oh, absolutely. So I mean, the biggest thing I would ask is like, what's kind of like your strategy at the beginning? Because I think there's a lot of social media managers out there, but they're not necessarily approaching social media with like a strategy and like that extra thought that needs to go into it. They're just like, oh, we should use this photographer, take these nice pictures, and then they start posting. I think you really need to find somebody who is willing to show you, like, hey, you know, I'm taking on your brand and your business, and here's how I think we can best represent you online, and this is why. So you really want to ask those types of questions. And I think just their like approach on social media. I mean, understanding the audience is super important. What you think might look good or do well on social media might not be what's appropriate for that brand and their audience. And so ensuring that your social media is understands branding and understands that before they take on your account, because I think that's the biggest thing I really see a lot of times is you can tell, you know, like I'm a female and I have things that I'm interested in, but that doesn't make sense for this plunger new app I that I'm marketing right now. You know, like some of my interests probably don't align with who's interested in plumbing or things like that. So I think that that's really important to understand. And then just very clear expectations. So you're getting a monthly report. How much time do I expect you're going to spend from posting to engagement, content creation, and everything in between? I think that just be totally clear and understanding of how that's going to go so that you don't have expectations that you don't feel like your social media's managers reaching and things along those lines. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some more, but I think that's all I have for now. Does that a good answer to your question?
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are two really important things to think about. And I think that, I run into a lot of social media managers and I encourage people, go out, start your own business, do you, right? Like I'm never going to say don't.
Yeah.
But it's not all equal, right? Just like anything else, right? Not all restaurants are equal, not all dentists are equal. Like you're not all equal. And I think that your two pieces of advice are great, right? So talk about strategy, and I think that's critical. Like, what is the strategy?
Exactly.
Is the strategy just I'm going to post this amount of times, and if we get engagement, great. Okay, well, if you're on a tight budget, you're just trying to start, maybe that's it, right? But that's probably not going to get you the return on investment that maybe you're looking for. And expectations, right? I think that's critical, and we talk about that all the time, right? Like what are the expectations? Like what should your client expect, and then what should you expect from your client, because sometimes they need to provide stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I would say that's the biggest thing. Like from my position, I run into with clients is I've just learned over the years I have to set clear expectations and clear guidelines, because sometimes those things need to be discussed. If a client wants to meet with me every week, I need to know that, where there's some clients who might want to meet with me once a month and discuss upcoming stuff. And so those are things that I think you as a client or somebody looking for a social media manager, you'd need to make a nice list and outline all those types of things that you really would like from a social media manager. And ask those questions, because again, everybody's different, every business is different, and what you need is going to be different. So lists are great.
So what are your thoughts on influencers? So I know, it seems to be really hot right now, is like, oh, I'm an influencer, I've got huge following. Like, should businesses leverage them? Should they not? Is there a strategy there? What's that look like?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's another strategy. And really, everything again comes down to audience. I mean, does that influencer attract the audience you're trying to attract? Um, and I do definitely, influencers aren't for everybody, is how I think about it again, is, like influencers are going to be beneficial because it's like especially if their audience is aligned with you, it's like a microphone to your target audience through another individual who's praising your product. I mean, we all have those people that we trust and those influencers that we're following. And when they say they like this brand of cookie dough, we're like, okay, I'll have to try that brand of cookie dough. I mean, whether it's like intentional or unintentional, you'll notice that brand somewhere else and you'll be like, oh, I heard that this is a good brand to try. And so you're going to try it. So I definitely think influencers, um, the issue is they're expensive, to be honest. A lot of influencers are expensive. So really, again, you have to test the market, test the influencers, track their ROI, track, what's kind of coming from them. And then you'll start, like, once you kind of get into the routine of things, you'll start realizing who's working for you, who's not, how much money you should be allocating to influencers, and things along those lines. And I've learned a lot through the years, but it's different for every single brand. Again, it's starting over almost every single time. Like, I've got to, like, this influencer, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a great bet for this brand, but you could be surprised.
Okay.
Yeah.
let's talk social media as it relates to everything else marketing, right? I think that, there are times when a social strategy by itself can work. But I often think that some businesses may double down too hard and not pay attention to the website, the rest of their marketing, their follow-up, their sales process. Like, what's your advice on, like, how does social media fit into overall marketing?
Yeah, it's a circle. I mean, it's 100% a circle, and social media is just one part of it. And so if not everything's talking, it's not going to be successful. You can't expect us to drive traffic from your social media account to your website and to get a bunch of purchases. Your website needs to be functional. It needs to be, I can't think of the right word, working correctly, or, doing the right things in order for them to finally make that purchase. They don't make that purchase. There needs to be the email marketing that comes back, and they need all those touch points to finally do something about it. Social media is just a really good place to introduce people to your brand, and it's the follow through that really creates those conversions.
I love that. So it's definitely important then to look at the client life cycle, right? Like, where
Mhm.
is that first impression and first touch? What might that feel and look like? And then how does social media become, kind of like you said, to the microphone on the influencer, but how does it become this platform to engage and communicate through the buying cycle? And then if they're not buying on social, then is your website actually a place where they can buy? Are you driving to Amazon? Like, where are you actually doing? And to that point, like, what's your goal, right? Are you trying to get consultations? Are you trying to close deals? Are you trying to get the phone to ring? I think that's something that people need to be really clear on too, is like, what are you actually trying to accomplish?
Exactly. And yeah, again, social media, you really need to have a clear call to action, and you need to be super clear with your audience, kind of what the next steps are for them to take. Because again, going back to, like, not having a strategy and not clearly planning out your contents, that's when your audience falls off. Yeah, they might be viewing, they might be liking your content, but at the end of the day, you want to make money. And so how are we converting that client from social media to book a course with you, to make a purchase, to do whatever it is you're trying to get them to do?
Perfect. Great advice. There's so much good conversation here because again, I think it's, there's so much of that. Hey, it's one size fits all and it's this magic bullet. And it's like, cool. It's neither. So,
Yeah.
right. Have a strategy, actually understand the marketing cycle. So yeah, I love that. What else should a business owner think about when it comes to social media marketing? Is there anything that, like, you always tell your clients, or just something that's top of mind that they need to think about?
Um, well, I don't know why this comes to mind. Social media isn't something that happens overnight. Like, you're not going to get results from social media overnight. And that goes back to the expectations that I mentioned before, because I think a lot of clients want 10,000 followers in a month or something like that. But it's like, we could get you 10,000 followers, but are they in your niche? Are they really interested in your product? I mean, that's just a vanity metric that you're looking for, and things like that. So I think that understanding that it's consistency month over month, and it's a gradual increase. You might see a huge increase from something you posted, again, like something goes viral. But at the end of the day, I think it's that marathon, not a sprint.
So think long term. Yeah, don't just rush into it thinking, hey, this is it. If this is your last dollar to invest in marketing and you're struggling, like this may not be the dollar to invest, right? Like you need to be
Absolutely.
consistent. You need to think long term. And again, we're back to that word strategy, right? I'm glad that you keep bringing that up. Is don't just rush into social media marketing or any marketing just because, right? Like, what's your strategy? What's the follow through? What do you expect the results to be? And then how do we benchmark that so we know if it's working?
Exactly. No, I absolutely agree.
Perfect. So let's talk business a little bit. Obviously, you're a business owner and you've worked for huge corporations. You've been in sort of a partnership setup, and now you're on your own. Anyone who's looking to start a business or scale a business up, what are some tips, or what are some things that like they should do or they should avoid? What are some of those lessons maybe you've learned?
Oh my gosh, there's been so many, so I don't know where to begin. I think you need to really understand your product, of course, and you can't veer away from that too much. If you start, like, social media management is my thing, but I've done some graphic design here and there. I've done a little bit of building websites here and there, and those aren't my specialties, and those just ended up taking away from me building what I'm building now. And I realized that, over time. So I think it's important to niche down in that way. Just like I tell brands, like with their audiences on social media, you need to, like, your product's not for everybody. It's for one person, and let's find who that's for. Just like your business, you find out what you're good at and like hone in on that for sure. And then, yeah, after that, I can't think of, it just is ongoing. I think it's just a constant, just learning. Yeah,
Well,
I've,
that's too. I mean, that first piece of advice is critical. And I remember having my marketing agency, and we just kept adding services and adding products. And all of a sudden, you wake up and you're like, man, I'm trying to be everything to everybody, and I have no clue how to fulfill any of this anymore. And I think that applies to a lot of business, because when you start, you want to chase the business, you want to say yes to clients, like you're hungry for some capital. But it is, you got to stay true to, like, why did you start? What's your core product? Where's your core competency? Because if you can scale that, that's where, one, you're going to get better referrals, and two, you're going to be able to control margins. So that's really critical. And then always be learning, for sure. I mean, we can't start business, and I think we see this where it's like, hey, this is how it's always worked. Well, guess what? How it's always worked is probably not going to work tomorrow. So
oh,
what are you going to do to change, right? How are you going to adapt? Technology's changing so fast. The economy's changing. I mean, we just came out of a pandemic that if you weren't willing to adapt, learn, and see what people were doing, you probably may not have came out of it well, right? So but both those are, I mean, those are great. And watching your journey has been really exciting, because you're doing great things, and I've seen both those, right? Where you're dabbling and then you hone back in, and it's exciting, right? It's part of the journey. So
yeah, because you want to be able to offer, like, when one client's like, oh, I could also use a flyer for this event coming up. Could you design that for me real quick? And it's like, well, then that takes away from my management of your social media, which is what we've agreed, or I'm doing better at, or something like that. So yeah, I totally think, yeah, honing in. And again, like, I think being really organized, I think that's something that I have to work on all the time, is just keeping all the spreadsheets and making sure I'm on track financially, on track with invoicing, and just every little tiny detail that goes into running a business, because it's easy to slack on some of that sometimes, and then you start falling behind and you realize I haven't been tracking my finances, no wonder I'm here or there. And so I think that's a huge piece, because I was just talking to somebody about it the other day. I think that's a big reason why businesses fail, is they don't know exactly how much is coming in and coming out. They gauge it, they have an idea, but they don't really know, and it ends up becoming a surprise and sometimes a little too late.
What are you talking about? You don't love admin work? Like you didn't start a business to just do paperwork?
Yes, unfortunately, that's probably 90% of my job.
But it's so true though, right? Like I love the E-Myth book, where it talks about like the baker starts a business and then they realize like, well, I mean, yeah, you're going to bake a little bit, but you also have to market the bakery. You have to hire employees. You have to manage the bakery. You have to purchase the supplies. Like baking is this much of the business. There's so much more to it. And it's the same with your business, right? Yeah, social media marketing is great. And now that you have a team, doing this posting is not even part of the business, right? Like you have people who do that. Now it's strategy and management and growth and how much capital do I need to hit the next level? And that admin work though, none of us enjoy it. I mean, okay, fine. A very few of you enjoy it.
I know, it's just something I have to do.
So we're coming up on our time. So any other takeaways when it comes to marketing, any success stories or any other business takeaways that you want to share or talk about?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, as far as like what I've been doing, like I just, again, like as with when it comes to social media management and marketing, I think the biggest takeaway is honing in on your audience and your brand. If you have a clear understanding of both of those things, social media should really come easy to you after that. The content you're creating, your voice, everything that comes after that should come really easy. From like a business side, as far as being a social media manager and marketer, I think that like again, just managing your everything, your day-to-day admin stuff, and like really keeping detailed track moving forward on everything that you're doing and all of your projects is absolutely important. I'm sorry, I don't have like a great answer to this.
That's good. I was thinking of another question too, and this is something I can't believe I didn't ask this earlier. So when it comes to personal versus business accounts on social, we have to spend a second talking about it, right? I think some people are so scared of being a person, being out there as an individual on social, and they want to just be business. Does that work? Do you have to play in both arenas? What's your thought process there?
It can work, but I definitely think if you are your business, you need to be the representative of your business. And I know it's really hard for a lot of people, and there are some fun ways or different things that you can do. You just have to be extra creative as far as the type of content you're creating. But if you're the one face to face with your clients and working with them, you want to build that relationship online, build that trustworthiness with them online before they commit to working with you. And so the best way to do that is to show your face and talk to them through your stories and your content, for sure. So I have a good mix of both, I think. I've really grown like Honeypot to where it was just me talking or just me, presenting the information. Whereas to now I have employees and people who can help me out with that, which is nice. But also I'm an agency. It's not just me anymore.
I think that's good advice, right? I think often I hear that fear of like, well, I just don't want to be on there as an individual. And it's like, yeah, but it's a social platform, right? Like, so the social part of it requires interaction, and I had a mentor way back when with websites, and he's like, hey, on your about page, how come there's not pictures of the staff, of the team, of the business owner? And a lot of people shy away from that, but people do business with people, right? At the end of the day, we don't do business with a brand, right? Typically we're doing business with people. we're
Mhm.
supporting a friend's business, we're supporting that influencer or that person that we respect. And if there's an awesome brand behind that, great, right? But we're looking at recommendations and reviews, like we're social beings, right? So I like that advice of like, you can do one, but you probably want to dabble in both.
Yeah, no, I think so. There was one somebody I follow on social media, and they pointed out like I'm got so many followers and I'm doing well in business, and I haven't ever showed my face or talked to a camera on social media. So there are those special cases, but he was a designer too, so his work, his art was speaking for him. And so I think that's just kind of the difference. But again, yes, we do business with other people, and seeing the face and like the person behind who you're doing business with is important, or having at least some sort of a spokesperson to represent is very helpful. So even if you're not comfortable, maybe you have an employee or your wife or your husband or somebody that could, represent the brand or help be that person for the business.
Yeah, how do you personalize it? That's a great takeaway. And you mentioned kind of that, I think we have to say it, right? Behind the scenes content is great. Like people love to see what's going on in the back end of the restaurant, right? They want to see the cooking. They want to see, kind of back to your poke bowl, they want to see it be made. They don't want to just see a final picture of here's the food, and I think all industries, people crave that, like, I want to see the stuff that I can't see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it comes down to the authenticity, which we hear that word thrown around a lot, especially when it comes to social media. But it's true. People they're sick of the pretty curated pictures all the time. They kind of want to see, how was that made? How was that done? How did you get that product to look like that? Or what's the packaging like, or the day-to-day life behind the scenes to, us getting that package in the mail. All that kind of detailed stuff is really interesting and fun. And it's storytelling at the end, at the core, I guess.
Well, yeah, and that brings up, I mean, some good content ideas, right? If you go back to that client life cycle, what are your clients' touch points and how do you create video around it, right? So
Hmm.
if your product's being made, show some video. If you're packing and shipping it, show that. If it's going on a truck, show it. If it's being delivered, do some of those videos of unboxing so people can understand, here's how my package comes, here's what the box looks like, here's what you can expect, here's the timeline, right? Like answer their questions. And if you think through that life cycle, I think you'll come up with a lot of content.
Exactly. Yeah, for one of the estheticians, she's one of my newer clients, and it was kind of confusing finding her building. And I was like, well, we can come up with some creative ways in which we kind of take, the client through the building and show them where they're going, and not boring, mundane, but just getting creative so that they can visualize that. And that intimidating factor that might come up isn't intimidating anymore, because when you're going to a new place, it might seem intimidating and scary, but if you looked on social media and you know exactly what it looks like, how to get there, you feel comfortable already, taking that next step.
Yeah, what's the signage? Where's the parking lot? What door do I go in? Is it upstairs? Is it downstairs? Do I take the elevator? Again, think about that client experience. And I love that because I think that is a huge fear. I think that especially in that business where you're going to get foot traffic, whether it's retail or service, I think that you've got to think through that. Is your client going to have a limitation or an excuse to not show up?
Exactly. Exactly. And again, like that might sound boring to some people, and they're like, I don't need to show them how to get it. But really, there's so many fun and creative ways that you can showcase that again, you just think through it. And yeah, client experience is important.
Awesome. Well, below this video will be Ashley's contact information, and there'll be a link to fill out a form, name, email. You can put a message in there. Ashley will get that. She'll follow back up with you. I know she's open to taking meetings and having conversations around social media, around marketing, around business. So reach out to her if you want more information. Ashley, thank you so much for taking the time. There's really good takeaways here, and hopefully people learned a couple things.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devin. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Ashley.
Thanks.